Autumn is a beautiful time of the year, but there's not just a change in leaves to look at. It's also a great time to find some fungi, and the best way of doing that is to find yourself an expert. That's why I've tracked down Michael Jordan from the Association of British Fungus Groups. So, Michael, what have you got for me?
It's a little number called Mica Cap, and it's one of the commonest of the wood-rotting fungi. It's literally working its way through this thumping great big log, breaking it down.
So how extensive is this network?
Well, it's technically called a mycelium, and in fact it will be running through the whole of this log, rather like a bit of loose cotton wool, if you like, and it's slowly digesting the wood away. These are purely the fruits. And incidentally, this is called a mica cap because if you look at it very closely, it's got little tiny glistening particles on the cap that look like old-fashioned mica, the stuff they used to put into walls to insulate it.
Obvious question now has to be asked. What's the difference between a fungi, a mushroom and a toadstool?
Not a lot, that's the answer. They're all fungi.
Right.
Mushroom and toadstools are kind of slightly dated terms now. And when I was a kid, mushrooms were things that grew in the fields and you took home to eat, and toadstools were things that grew in the woods and your mum and dad told you to kick over because they were poisonous. We have 16,500-ish species of fungi in the UK, of which very few are poisonous and even less are decently edible. So the terms mushroom and toadstool have tended to go out. I mean, mushroom is a French word that comes from mousseron, mousse. Toadstool is two German words, tod and stool, meaning a stalk of death. But it doesn't really mean a heck of a lot these days. It's better to call them fungi. Well, this is a big wood, and that's just one example, so let's go and see what we can find. Oh, there's a good example actually of one of the woodland fungi that you can find just about everywhere. If you go out on a walk and you don't find these, then there's something wrong. It's called the common yellow russula. If I hoik one of those out, let's have that one. Bearing in mind that this is just the fruit, what I'm doing is detaching it from that cotton wool mycelium. This is the business end, and what you've got effectively is a stalk which brings the cap up above the ground. The cap is there for protection, and underneath the cap you've got, in this case, gills, these sort of bicycle wheel spokes, and those are lined with the spore-bearing surface. These are purely there to produce spores, and they'll produce millions and millions of them.
So why do we only see fungi in the autumn?
Well, you don't actually. I mean, in fairness, the majority of them are there in the autumn, but you can actually get them throughout the year. You can get them in January and February. The main reason they come in the autumn is because it's warm and it's damp, and that's what they need. They also need a decent cold spell, and one of the reasons we've got quite a lot of fungi fruiting this autumn is because we had the cold snap last winter, and they like to go to sleep and then effectively wake up again and do their business. That's another example of a russula, just like the yellow one. This is called a blackening russula, Russula nigricans. They've got a common name of brittle gills, for very good reason. If I hoik one of these out for you, I'm going to get this one out in one piece. They start off white, by the way. There's the business end, the gills. And it's called a brittle gill because most fungi are made up of long fibrous elements, so they'll bend. This one just snaps.
Look at that.
And it's made of things like little polystyrene balls. And if you look at the gills, if I do a little bit of scratching on them, you see they just break up like that. And that's quite unusual compared with other fungi. And of course the gills are the things that are producing the spores. And the spores are not quite the same as seeds. If you bung a seed in the ground, the odds are it'll grow into a new plant. With these, there are, if you like, boy spores and girl spores. And a boy and a girl have got to get together and produce an intermediate stage called a zygote. And the zygote then develops a new mycelium, and the mycelium develops more fruit bodies that produce more spores. So it's a wonderful cycle. And something like this will produce, millions, literally, of spores. We're breathing them in all the time. They won't grow absolutely everywhere, otherwise we'd be knee-deep in fungi. They only grow in locations that they fancy growing in. With these, the spores just drop out from the gills and they're blown away by the wind. And actually over there by your feet there is a different sort altogether. If I can come over and hoik one of those out. Now that, people get confused between puffballs and earthballs. That's an earthball.
Right.
Puffballs have very thin skins and they get a little hole in the top. The raindrops hit the outside of the skin and the spores puff out. But these, the skin is like a tennis ball. If I cut this open, you ready?
Yes.
All right. It's black inside and the skin is really thick.
Yes.
And what happens there is that when this is ripe, this outer skin rots away and just breaks open, and then the raindrops go inside all this black mass of spores, splash them out, and then little animals come along and paddle them away. So it's an animal dispersal mechanism, not a wind dispersal.
Fascinating.
You've got to keep your eyes open in the skin. Look. I think this is going to be something a bit different.
Oh, good.
So we go. I can get in there with it. There we go. Now, am I right? Yes. This hasn't got gills. It's got spongy pores, like a Malteser. And the pores lead into tubes, and the tubes are lined with the spore-bearing surface. So if I get it into its right position, which is like that, the thing would normally be that way up. So the spores drop down the tubes under gravity and then drift away in the breeze. And that is one of a group called the bolete, or boletes. The best known relative of that is the cep, the edible penny bun. That is not a penny bun, however, but it's nevertheless a bolete.
So what's the most enjoyable way to learn your fungi?
Well, I suppose, in my view, the way not to do it is by going and buying a little illustrated pocketbook and flipping through the pages and saying, looks like that one, or maybe it looks like that, because all you do is get confused. There are 16,500 species of fungi in this country, you can't learn them all. Best way of doing it, I think, is to join a local group. They're great fun, family orientated. We've got 2 in Somerset, 2 in Devon, 1 in Cornwall, 1 in Wiltshire, 1 in Gloucestershire. They're all over. And we also run forays in association with the Somerset Wildlife Trust. So if you go onto the A.B.F.G, Association of British Fungus Groups website, have a look at the details, it's all there.
So there you are. If you want to learn your fungi, that's the way to do it. Michael, thank you very much for your time.
Good pleasure.
To carry on foraging.
Will do. Thank you.